Welcome back to the Driveway Beers podcast with Mike and Alex. As always, we appreciate you listening. Please rate us on all the podcast platforms. Like, subscribe, comment, share wherever else you're listening, and enjoy the show. All right, welcome back to another show. We appreciate you listening. As always, please like, subscribe, comment, and share. If you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, YouTube, I'm sure that there's like 20 other players out there. Whatever player you're playing this podcast on, rate us, like us, subscribe, comment, whatever it'll let you do, do it. It only helps us out, helps get this show out to more people. Normally, this is where I would talk about the sponsor of the show, but luckily he's in the studio. I say that lightly. It's not a studio. It's a fucking basement.
Yeah.
Although you can confirm this is not a murder basement. I don't have people hanging in the back room.
I haven't checked all the rooms. But
Okay. But so far.
No murders.
There's no blood on the wall.
Not yet.
Okay. Adam Chubbuck is with us tonight to talk about finance and real estate and some other things. But one of the things that I say this very frequently. Now, they're not ad reads. I'm not reading off of a piece of paper. I'm literally just telling you what I know about Adam and the way he does business. And, you know, tonight we are going to talk about the changing winds of the economy, what it might look like in the next 6 to 8 months. But I always tell people, you know, when you go to tacmd.com, that's TACMD.com, and that's Adam's website with Douglas Realty over in Pasadena, Maryland. If it is not the right time for you to make your move, whatever that move is, he will tell you that. And that's very important in this market. I've said this a long time ago. I had when we were buying this house about 11 years ago, we had the first agent we had. They basically were there just to open the door, let us in, and if we wanted to make a bid on a house, they would tell us what the market range for the house was. They didn't tell us whether it was a good deal or the right deal for us at that time, because we were not in a rush to move.
Right.
We didn't have to go anywhere. We were looking to try and take advantage of lower interest rates, and at the time, it was like a little dip in housing prices, and it was the time that we could afford a house like this, whereas if we waited, we didn't think we would be able to, and we were right. Mm-hmm. But the real estate agent was just like, well, this is what it's going to go for. And like, I remember specifically, it was a house down the road. It was a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath house. And we were always looking for a 4-bedroom. But the housing market was hot. Houses were flying off the market. They were going, but they were still kind of, it was because the house prices got depressed and the mortgage rates were around 4. It was a pretty good time. And they were like, this house is $400,000. It's probably going to go for $405, $410. And I said, but it's a 3-bedroom house. And I said, would you pay this for a 3-bedroom house? And he said, well, no, but that's what the market's going to bear right now. And I was like, okay, if you wouldn't do this with your own money,
Right.
why are you telling me to do that? Like, you're here to tell me, like, you're the expert. You're the person I'm relying on. I mean, otherwise, if I'm not going to have a real estate agent give me that kind of advice, why not just go with a Redfin? Because they've got agents that'll let me in the door.
Discount, whatever.
Right. Well, but they'll let me, like, they if as a buyer, you can go in with a Redfin agent will go, they'll open the door, you go in, you walk out. They're not going to tell you anything. They're not going to give you any advice. They're not going to give you any expert advice into the market or even the local market, because sometimes those agents come from like 3 counties over.
Or Northern Virginia or something like that. Yeah.
Right. And so I always tell people the value of an agent is when they represent you as if it's their own transaction and their own money. And that's where you come in.
Right.
Because if it's not the right time for someone to make a move, you're going to tell them to wait.
Well, 100%, right? So, I mean, right now with fall is always a great time for a buyer to buy and a terrible time for a seller to sell, right? Fall going into winter, because what does nobody want to do? Nobody wants to move around Thanksgiving, Christmas time, right? If you're a seller and you got to pack up a house. So, I mean, unless you're in a situation where you need to make that move, you know, divorce, somebody passed away, one of those kind of tragic situations, we try to encourage most of our sellers to hold off till the spring. But if you're a buyer, it's the exact opposite end of that script, right? Because there's not a lot of competition. You know, this market's been absolutely nuts. I mean, Florida saw some depression. Some other parts of the country saw some depression. We didn't see it. It's just been, I mean, we're still getting multiple offers, 4, 5, 6 days on market for well-priced homes. It's kind of, it's great for the sellers right now, but going into this fall market, buyers are going to win.
I feel like this particular market, and we're in Annapolis, we're near Annapolis, so we're just outside of D.C., Baltimore. It's basically they call it a triangle, where it's the Annapolis, D.C., Baltimore triangle. It's very insulated from economic downturns just because there's always jobs here.
Well, military and government sector just supports us so well.
I mean, you've got 2 huge military installations. You've got Fort Meade, which is enormous, which also may or may not have a 3-letter agency within the compound. I don't know. Well, actually, you know what?
It's definitely on the Wikipedias here. Well, come on now.
It's called no such agency.
Look, they got the name on the green sign on the highway. I think we're allowed to say it's over there. If they're putting it on the highway sign, we're okay. Right. I'm not saying what's being done there. So you got Fort Meade, you got a couple of 3-letter agencies, you got some other stuff there, and that's like right around the Baltimore area. But then you got Andrews down by D.C. I mean, it's in Maryland, but it's over by D.C. Right. That's a huge installation. Then you got Fort Belvoir. I mean, I got to say, there's probably 4 or 5.
Yeah, Pax River.
Pax River.
Pentagon.
You can't talk about Pax River. Pax River's got some nuclear stuff going on.
Oh,
yeah.
Bowling Air Force Base is smaller.
Joint Base Anacostia Bowling.
Yeah. And then there's...
Belvoir's in Virginia, too.
Yep.
Or is that down...
No, it's just on the other side.
That's what I thought. Okay, but there's also one down in Prince William. Right over the bridge in Virginia. If you go down
Fort Myer Henderson Hall, which is where Ceremonial Guard or Tomb of the Unknown Soldier Arlington National is.
Oh, no, go the other way. Go down 301.
Okay.
And you go over the nice bridge into Virginia.
Dahlgren.
Oh, yeah, Dahlgren.
Yes, that's another one.
Home of Aegis. Yep.
Yeah. And so this area, and so with the military, and then you got the federal government employees on top of that.
Also the Naval Academy.
Right.
That's another one.
It's minor.
They don't buy a lot of houses.
It's a minor thing. But so you have the federal government, but then you've also got the private industry that supports the federal government, like all the contractors and stuff. I mean, Montgomery County is not one of the richest counties in America because there's no jobs here, right?
Right.
So it's very well insulated. I mean, we saw a little bit of a downturn in 08, 09 when the financial market kind of went piss poor.
I think everybody did.
Yeah, but that was a little bit different in the fact that, like, you know, people couldn't sell their homes because they couldn't get what they needed out of it to pay out the mortgage, and then you had a lot of mortgages adjusting because people were doing those 5-1, 7-1, 10-1 arms,
right?
And the mortgage companies were not willing to refinance because the house was worth less than what people owed on the house, and that led to a lot of foreclosures and bankruptcies and that kind of thing. So that pushed housing prices down. But we're not in that situation now. Even if there's an economic downturn, you're not in that situation because you got people that are in these homes with 2.5% to 3.5% mortgages. They can easily afford the mortgage as long as they've got their job, which we just talked about. Jobs around here really don't go anywhere.
Right.
And so you might have some stagnant issues, but you're not going to have the full-blown recession issue because people aren't going to be losing their homes. So it's a much different situation than when it was 07, 08. From what I've seen, though, houses are, if it's a nice house, I'm not talking about fixer-uppers.
Even fixer-uppers, though. I mean,
the nice one, the neighbor next door, their house is on the market for 3 days. Mm-hmm. And I think all of us shit our pants when we saw what the sell price was.
Right. I never saw what the sell price was. Start with a 7?
Oh, keep going.
Right.
Start with an 8?
No, it halfway.
Oh my God.
Yes. Yeah. 100. I swear to God.
So that's one of the things. Like, so I bought my house in this neighborhood in 2009. Mm-hmm. We closed on Valentine's Day 2009, and I look at the houses going up, and I'm like, I don't know if I can afford to buy a house in my own neighborhood right now.
Right.
Which is cool because, like, when you look at, like, mine would go for something similar to that, and so I'm like, okay, that's cool. But if I was coming in in the same position I was in 09, I'm not in here.
Mm-hmm. I can't.
I'm in some townhouse off Baydale Drive.
Right.
Right. So
can I even afford that right now?
I don't know.
Dude, I don't think so.
I'm just gonna live in a van down by the river.
you know how
Saigon whore.
we had an honest conversation if we were gonna like we're talking about selling the RV. When that house sold, we were like, should we just go live in the RV
And rent this.
and sell this?
Yeah.
You kidding me?
But that's a big question right now. Like, what's next, right? So people want to cash in on this equity that they have, and if you're not doing a downsized move or an out-of-state move, it's like, okay, where do we go now, right? And if you don't really have that plan, those are the people that we're talking about. Like, take a deep breath. Let's figure this out.
Well, and that's what. So the neighbors that we have, they were original owners from this neighborhood.
Oh, they did well.
So no, they did very.
They
well.
did well.
I mean, don't get me wrong, unless they refinanced at one point, took some cash
Whatever,
out,
right.
but they were still okay.
Yeah.
They actually ended up buying waterfront property in Pasadena. So
Good for them.
this was their dream retirement home. And for people that don't know, I mean, Pasadena has some very nice areas, especially when you
100%.
can buy on the water.
I'm a Dina boy, right? So
Right.
we're gonna be defending Pasadena
Yeah.
at this table. I don't know if anybody wants to scrap. I might be the smallest girl at this table, but let me tell you right now, we're not gonna let that go down.
It's a very diverse area. Like I'm not going to move into E-Town. And I don't want to say the full name, but you know what I'm talking about. You know that townhouse complex
Yeah,
over there.
yeah.
I'm not moving there.
I get it.
But there are some houses like down like Riviera Beach and some other areas. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're not going to be mansions, but they're going to be homes that were either fairly inexpensive originally, and someone probably bought it and just redid the crap out of it and made it beautiful inside. And now you're right on the water.
So here's a fun fact, right, or whatever we say, maybe not exact fact, but Anne Arundel County has 513 miles of shoreline. That's more than 20 states, right?
Yeah.
So the options are really, the key is finding waterfront that has usable water, and you own the repairing, non-repairing rights.
I mean, so for me, I'm never going to get a boat, right?
Okay.
So for me, just being on the water would be more than enough.
Okay.
I don't need a dock. Now you'd want a dock. Mike would love the dock and the boat and all that fun stuff. But
a fan.
for someone like me, I mean, do I want it? I want my property to go to the water. I mean, would I like the ideal, like, into a beach, like a little private beach into the water?
Where do I see you on a floaty, just out there with a cocktail drink and living your best life?
I would probably build the dock,
Okay.
but never put a boat on it, just so I could sit on the dock in the chair. That's
Okay.
what I would do.
Or build the dock and let someone else use it for their boat.
That's right. Yeah, like, if you want to come
That
over,
happens too.
You can park right up
Yeah.
on my dock.
A friend of mine lives on Kent Island,
Okay.
and on one of the little bays or whatever.
Right.
And he actually inherited the house when his parents passed away, and since he had no mortgage, completely redid the thing.
Oh, good for him.
And then the renovation is his mortgage, but compared to what that house would go for to
Yeah, he
buy
couldn't
it.
afford to do it otherwise.
So he has a dock, but he doesn't have a boat. Mm-hmm. So he lets his buddies keep their boats there, and then but the keys are in him. Like, hey, if he wants to take the boat out, hey, I'm taking your boat out. He just brings it back with gas in it.
That's the payment.
best.
That's the payment, right?
Yeah.
Instead of someone paying $5,000 or $10,000 for a year, you can park it here if you want.
Yeah.
I might use it twice a year.
Yeah.
I used to have a neighbor.
No one would not take that.
So I used to live on Stony Creek, and across the street, we lived across the street from the water, but the neighbor across didn't have a boat, had a dock, paid her $100 a month, let me keep my boat there, no issues. It was like the best of both worlds. I don't have the taxes, and I get to enjoy the fruits.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the issues I have with this county, and this is a little bit outside, is that there's so much water here,
Right.
but so little of it is actually accessible. Like, we're here, in like where we are right now, straight line distance, we're about 400 yards from navigable water.
Right.
You can't get to it. It's all private. You can't get to it.
Yeah.
Or if there are, like, you'll look at Google Earth, oh, there's a little beach there. Nope. Private access. So it kind of, like, I'm not going to Sandy Point. My fists are orange.
That's the only public launch, isn't it?
There's one in Annapolis. I think Truxton Park has a launch.
That's
a
the
ramp.
that's the other side.
But then here's the thing.
It's over there. It's with the
But you-
hoity-toity
But you
people.
go there, and if you ever watch, like, Miami boat ramps on...
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It is so funny.
Yeah.
It's like that, but the northern version. So
Right.
take Miami boat ramps, remove the hot Latinas, replace them with Glenn Bernier, and that's what you got.
Not that there's anything wrong with that type of woman.
That's right.
I'm not trying to disparage the Glenn Bernier women because I don't want that flashback we're gonna get. You know what I mean? Like I would like I'm not disrespecting the Pasadena woman either.
That's right. We don't want no
get cut.
trouble.
Huh? Well, yeah, well, I could have. I'm trying to think who am I more afraid of, Glen Burnier or
Or
Pasadena?
a chick from Miami.
I was gonna say Pasadena, but sure. I mean, maybe the lady from Miami would just bring some cocaine and make it a fun time.
Spice this up a bit.
Right? Yeah. I mean, I think less feelings would be hurt down there. As in up here, it's like they got a bone to pick with you because you're too good for them.
We used to call it the Glen Burnie Sport Fisherman,
Yeah.
which is a bayliner with
Outriggers on it.
outriggers on it. But those dudes would be out there slaying some.
I was going to say some of the best fishermen I know are on some of the most raggedy boats, you know.
I mean, one of our friends who is a Glen Burnier alumni, he's got himself a party boat.
He does.
He may have been on this show or not. our friend Josh has, when he bought a boat, he bought a party barge.
Okay.
All
right.
I couldn't be mad at him.
Oh, it was so.
It fits him so good.
But like the boat, now he completely redid it himself.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he like the deck was all soft because it's plywood.
So he tore it
And,
all out.
Yeah.
He pulled everything off of it, all the carpet, replaced all the decking with like marine plywood, and then reassembled it. It's really cool. But I was on it before, so you try to get up the swim ladder, and you're like, hey man, I'm looking through the deck of your boat.
We have a problem
Look at
here.
water.
Yeah.
You were
I'm no
stepping on the
expert.
deck and be like, hey, I don't want to put any more weight on this thing because I'm afraid I'm going to go through it and into the water. I didn't come to swim.
Yeah.
I came to relax.
Came for a good time.
Right. I came to drink some beer while I sat down on this chair. I didn't come to drink some beer while I'm trying to swim for my life.
Waiting on the Coast Guard. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. The one interesting part about Pasadena, and I know you still house in other parts, but we're right next door to Pasadena, and
Right.
we actually looked there before we bought here.
Okay.
The one thing that stopped us from moving to Pasadena was Mountain Road. Down because we were looking
Fair.
down.
Oh, you were down in Lakeshore.
Yeah, like we're 100 and Mountain Road meet.
Yep.
That's what we were looking past that.
Okay.
And don't get me wrong, College Parkway isn't the best during rush hour.
Right.
But that was really bad. That being said, though, it's probably one of the singular areas, other than maybe Sparrows Point, which Sparrows Point, you're now Baltimore County.
Well, and now Sparrows Point, you're super landlocked, right? Like,
Yeah,
there's no
true,
way
the bridge.
You
Yeah,
know, there's no way to get over there.
Someone
Yeah.
took out that bridge. And, some people think it was on purpose.
Oh, conspiracy theories coming out already?
No, it was on accident. I've seen that before. Oh, didn't someone take out another bridge like not too long ago? I don't remember where though. I don't want to.
No,
I read about it in the news, so you know it's not true.
The fact checker said it was true, but not true.
Speaking of it, this is probably a great time to say that there are no facts in this show whatsoever.
right.
It's only
Thank you.
feelings and speculations and opinions. So please do not take this for fact about anything or anyone that we talk about. All right, got that out of the way. No, but the one nice thing about Pasadena is there's a lot of waterfront property. Two, it's not out of a working man's tax bracket to buy that house. Because the houses aren't huge. We're not talking about mansions on the water. If you want
Right.
that, you can go over the bridge on the eastern shore. And there are some places, Severna Park, along the Severn. There's probably a little bit more of that, right?
Right.
But when you're talking about the creeks and the smaller rivers in Pasadena, Glen Burnie, Maryland to an extent, although not Maryland, Arnold to an extent. But there are some developments in Arnold where some of the houses are fucking McMansions.
Olmsted.
Yeah.
Well, but then you've got Jamestown on the Magathie, which is funny because Jamestown on the Magathie, you go through this neighborhood where it's like the little duplexes, like the rancher duplexes,
Transition,
and
yeah.
then you got the split foyers, and then out of nowhere are these like 3,000 square foot homes, and then you go a little bit further back into the cul-de-sac, and there's like the 4 McMansions that are on the water. I don't know if you've ever been. It's like the no name road.
specifically.
It's the no name road. Like it's in the cul-de-sac, and there's like this one driveway that just keeps going.
Right.
Well, it connects to 3 or 4 different houses, and they're
Okay.
enormous. I always thought that's where Pat Sajak lived, but I don't think it is.
He's
Or
Severna
LeVar
Park.
Arrington.
No, he's Severna Park guy. Pat is, at least.
Maybe LeVar was there.
I don't know.
I always like to explain Pasadena as like nice waterfront, you get more for your house the further you get away from Annapolis, right? Housing gets a little bit cheaper, a little bit cheaper, a little bit cheaper.
Yeah.
You get to Pasadena. And if you want okay water, you go to Glen Burnie. Nothing against Glen Burnie. But
Right.
And there's some nice homes on the water in Glen Burnie.
100%.
Middle River, same thing.
100%.
And like you'll be even Dundalk and Essex, like you're like this is
Yeah, like
Dundalk?
Bear Creek, you can still buy on the water for like mid fives, low sixes, which is a ton of money. Nobody's not saying it is, but you're not finding that in Anne Arundel County.
No.
The one nice thing I like about the Pasadena homes on the water, though, is for me, I love single level living. There's a lot of those like smaller ranch homes, like
Because they're old beach bungalows. You know,
Right.
they're old beach boxes.
well, weren't they? They all originate from the old waterman communities, didn't
Right.
they? Like so, that's where like all the guys that worked on the water, they built their homes right on the water, basically, and it's almost like it's like a New York City grid for a lot of them. And you see them
Yeah.
in Edgewater too. It's New York City grid with these small ranch style homes, and every once in a while you see one like someone sold the land. And like they subdivided, so like you see the little ranch home from the original owner, and then you see like the 2,500 square foot house next to it.
Right.
Cape St. Clair is the same way.
Yeah.
These are all the old waterman communities. Well, the good thing about them is though, you can buy these homes on the water, and then I think you can still get them for what, like not a huge house. I'll say like a 1,500 square foot house, maybe 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. I'm going to guess around half a mil.
I got to go north a little bit more. Probably like starting around 7 right now.
Inflation, man.
Yeah, it's
Jesus.
brutal. It's brutal.
So
I mean,
when we-
our housing market keeps going up.
When we looked, I really wanted to live on the water, and my wife had different ideas. She wanted like the type of house that we have, like this, and I was like, no, let's get a little, 2 or 3 bedroom house on the water. Now in 2009,
This is pre-kids, right?
pre-kids.
Yeah.
We're looking at Edgewater, and I'm finding stuff that I could afford
Right.
based upon our salaries, 15 years ago in Edgewater. I'm like, let's do it. Like, this is so, how cool would it be to just walk out and throw a crab pot out or get on the boat and go zip around. And she was probably the smarter one, but
The practical one.
But then the thing is, like, in Edgewater especially, you'll see these homes you'll see like the old, because like, depending on where you are, like in Edgewater, that land was all owned by the Washington Post. And if you subscribe to got a newspaper subscription, you were able to then buy a house there. And they were all the little vacation bungalows. Because there was no Bay Bridge, and that was the only place you go to cool off by the water from D.C. or Annapolis was, they had no heat, because they were just made to be there during and some of the original ones are still there. Others have been torn down and replaced by these zero lot line, enormous,
Right.
like they don't have a front yard, a backyard, nothing. It's just all house
The
on
water's
the
your
property.
backyard,
4
Yeah.
stories.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then the guy here will build 3 stories, and then the guy across the street will build 4,
So he can
so he
still
can
see
see
the water.
over the
Yeah.
water. And it's like, now we found some decent water view homes that were there that we could have easily gotten into, but then far away, and not far away, but like she didn't want to drive an hour, half hour to get to the grocery store. I was like, I'm fine with that.
Right.
Because we get down towards Beverly Beach, like the edge of Central Avenue, it starts getting some distance to get back to civilization. So I was happy with it. She didn't like it. We ended up here, but
Happy wife, happy life. Something like that.
Something like
I
that.
hear that.
I can tell you don't regret it at all.
No resentments made.
No, you're very happy with the choice. Well, that was also before you had 3 kids.
Yeah.
Could you imagine living in one of those houses now? I think you would probably have murdered 2 of them by now.
I'd probably just live on the boat.
Maybe she would have murdered 2 of them by now. One of the things that they announced, and we're going to get a little bit economic-y here. And I know that's a real word, yeah. Fed basically announced that for whatever reason, and I don't really agree with what they said, but they're going to start reducing interest rates soon. And multiple rate cuts, which should mean that interest rates should come down eventually on mortgages.
Which is a debacle.
Yeah.
That's a huge problem.
Well, right now, even with mortgage rates where they are, and I'm going to tell people this. So my background is in finance.
Right.
I've got a bachelor's in finance. I don't use it. I haven't used it in years. But the knowledge is still there, and I still keep up with economics and other money type stuff. As home prices are still going up, if they lower the interest rates right now, it's going to shoot prices through the roof.
And we're going to flood the market again with buyers. We're going to be right back to pre-22.
Right. And so, building on that point, if you put more buyers into this market right now with very little inventory, the home prices are just going to shoot higher. And it's going to be, in my opinion, it's going to be uncontrollable at that point.
Right.
Like right now, I believe the average mortgage rate is what, 6.5 for excellent credit.
It's actually even lower than that, right? Like we're quoting, like I do loans, I don't. Quoting like mid fives right now on a 30-year fixed.
Okay, so it's even lower than I even thought it
Right.
was. I mean, because
I think refi market's bananas right now.
so. Like I'm in this one for 4.25.
Okay.
So I never went below 4. I don't have any visions of grandeur that mortgage rates are going to go below 4. I think we saw the one opportunity everybody had to do that.
Yeah.
Now, will they get down to 4.5? 4.75? I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Your refis are already there.
Okay.
Right.
And so, if that happens, though, the house that just sold next to me is going to be a joke compared to what the next one sells at. And at that point, here's the thing.
And I'm living in a van by the river.
Right. So,
Right.
And that might help. And so, it could help get more inventory on the board. But the problem is you've got so many people just waiting for those interest
Well, you're
rates to
screwing
go
over
down.
the first-time home buyer, right?
Right.
You know, like to buy a decent house in Anne Arundel County, average sales price is like just north of $400,000. That's a $2,500 mortgage, right? Like it's starting to make more sense to rent than buy, and that's me saying that. The guy who makes his living off selling houses, right? I mean, it's just
Well, and the people that end up them buying are investors so that they can rent them out because
that's a
rents are
whole
going to
other
go up.
debacle, right? I mean, you're
I mean,
BlackRocks of the world and all those folks. You know, we haven't seen it a lot in our area, but it's happening.
mostly because this area for them doesn't make financial sense. No, don't worry. Could they make money? Sure, but they can make more money elsewhere. Again, this area is strange financially and economically. It's just so insulated, except from inflation,
Right.
because people have money. Like you have a lot of counties here that have people with a lot of money. And again, it's because people have jobs, they're good paying jobs.
Well, eight of the 10 wealthiest counties in the country
Or in this sector.
Yeah, or the
Yeah.
DMV. So there's a reason for that. It's because there's federal government and all the contractors
Yeah, I
and
would say
the
you think we have a
lobbyists.
housing problem. Go to Fairfax or Loudoun County. I mean, if you're not rolling in with $900K in cash, you're not even in the conversation. I mean,
Well, you know what's going to force first-time buyers, though, right? Baltimore City,
oh well,
because Baltimore City is the one place that
you can
is
still
not
buy a
fi-
house
Oh yeah,
for 150 grand.
right. I mean, you're not going to like where you're living.
Buy a whole block of them if you pay the back taxes for $1.
Well, but the thing is that you have investors doing that right now.
Yeah.
So Brewers Hill years ago, that's what happened.
Okay.
They bought a shit ton of that part of the town. They tore down the houses and they put up apartments or condo style living, and they renovated the Natty Bow area. Like they renovated the sign. Like they made it a nice place. Like,
And money came in. Nice
Yes.
restaurants came with it.
Yeah.
You know.
and so that's where. So if people, and this is what I tell people: if you're a young person, don't look for your forever home.
It's a stepping stone.
Look for a house where you can just sit tight for a couple of years. Buy in a depressed area, and just wait for the investors to come in. And in fact, if you can, buy next to a place that was just developed. Like back then,
Like anything going around Hopkins right now.
well, Hopkins expanded too. I mean, they took down the project homes there. So I used to live on North Wolf and Washington Street.
Okay.
Around the corner, there's a big Hispanic church right there.
Right. We sold a fuel and castle this year.
Okay. So if you went one block back, there were the projects were right there.
Okay.
2 more blocks is Hopkins Hospital and also the School of Public Health and some other stuff. Well, Hopkins bought they bought the block across from the projects and they developed townhomes. Well, they used it for student housing, for their residents, for the medical students. Well, then they convinced the city of Baltimore to tear down the projects. So now,
Subsidized housing.
I'm
Some of us have a license in this field.
okay.
We just want to maintain that.
Sure, I understand. But what it did was it raised those property values.
Yeah.
Well, then Hopkins bought the land that the low income housing
Thank you.
was on, and they bought that.
Right.
And so basically, Hopkins is not that I'm saying they're a real estate investment trust, but
Are they far off?
they could easily reclassify that as that tomorrow. There's not as many tax benefits as being listed as a higher education institution.
Right.
Tax benefits are much better in that classification. But if a big company like that is doing it, then someone in their 20s or I guess even 30s, if you're a first-time home buyer, buy where you think they're going to go next, because they will pay you handsomely when they want to buy your shit. And if you can live there for a little while and not get stabbed or murdered, even better. I mean, look, there are certain places in Baltimore you can buy. They're inexpensive still, and they're not that rough. I mean, take advantage of the public perception of Baltimore right now and buy cheap.
Right.
Just make sure you buy next to something nice. Like,
especially if
buy
you're
the
gonna-
next
Fed Hill's got a ton of money coming into it. I mean, they're still building $600,000 row homes there.
yeah.
especially if you don't have kids, you have to worry about going to Baltimore City schools. Then you can live that school's terrible. I don't have any kids. Who cares? One of the reasons we bought here was because we knew the schools here were good. So we
Right.
knew that, and that helps your property value. Obviously, being in the Broadneck High School's area. So if you don't have kids and you can live in a rougher neighborhood, don't mind it until it gets better.
Right.
So there's a place in it's in Capitol Heights, right near Capitol Heights Metro, and there's all these single family homes. It's like that grid pattern. It was an old suburb.
Capitol Heights got a lot of investment going on in it too right now.
And
you
I
know?
was thinking to myself, man, if I had some extra coin to throw around, I'd just start buying.
There's a lot of flippers moving down there.
And either keep it, until and rent them out, and then just wait for some big developer to come through and want to develop, because it's walking distance to the metro.
Right.
And that just happened off of in Suitland, right there near Census. They tore all that stuff down.
Okay.
And those apartments were notorious for murders and all kinds of craziness. It's all gone now, and they built $500,000 row homes there.
Right.
10 years ago, no one would have thought that someone would pay $500,000 for a house there. But oh, you mean you bought 3 or 4 of them? So,
Yeah, one of the things that sucks about this area, in this Arnold area. So when I bought my first place, well, not it's technically my second place. My first place was upstate New York. Sold that, took the money I made from that and used it as a down payment on a condo down here. Now the condo, I think I bought it for like $180,000. It's 2-bedroom, 2-bath, about 1,000 square feet. It's over
Right.
off of Belle Reve Road.
Okay.
That same condo right now is like 250, 260. That's not. I mean,
Our housing market's almost doubled. I moved here in 2014, bought a house for $360, sold it a couple years ago for $620. I mean,
so you could almost pay for your next house in cash. Like that's where we're
there's
at
a
right
potential there. Right.
now. I mean, and that's. I think if home prices go up a little bit more, I think you're going to see a phenomenon of people selling their homes here and moving out of state. And here's the reason why. So a lot of people around here, and even the federal government workers, they're giving some of them the option to go full remote work.
Right.
So now here's the thing though. Your pay will change depending on your locality. So like, let's say someone was in this area getting the Baltimore, Washington, Annapolis locality pay, and they moved down to like Wilmington, North Carolina. You now get the Wilmington, North Carolina pay. But here's the thing though. If you can sell your house here and go down to Wilmington,
Cash.
pay all cash, maybe you got a mortgage $100,000. Well, your mortgage is under $1,000 at that point almost.
Right.
So you don't need all the locality pay that you were getting. You've cut your mortgage by 75% almost. It's not a bad idea anymore.
Right.
And I think that's how you end up getting more houses on the market in this area. I think people just say, screw it. I'm tired of the traffic. If I can go down and live almost, on less than $1,000 for my mortgage,
Especially people thinking about transitioning to retirement, something like that.
or even like let's just say, someone doesn't they don't want to have the husband and wife work anymore. Wife doesn't have to work anymore, or husband doesn't have to work anymore.
Right.
You're living on one salary, and you live in a slower pace of life. Maybe Wilmington's probably not a great idea.
Wilmington's screaming hot.
The home prices are not low there.
Okay.
Yeah, but my in-laws just moved down there. And I love it down there, but it's a whole bunch of people from New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut are retiring there because it's not as far south as Florida.
Right.
You don't get snow. You don't have to worry about raking leaves and all that stuff, but you still have some seasons. Mm-hmm. So they kind of like it. And plus, they're not, especially, from New York, it's about a 10-hour drive. Doable in a day.
Right.
It's a longer trip, but it's doable. So if their kids are still in New York or New Jersey, they can come visit, and it's not flying to Florida.
You know where else is really popular? I just had a friend who's a local realtor here buy a brand new build outside of Myrtle Beach. $250,000, 3-bedroom, 2-bath townhome that they're going to Airbnb as part of the golf resort world. Right?
Yeah, the golf courses in Myrtle are huge.
Oh, yeah.
And Wilmington's getting so built up. If you're in the construction trades, you can go down there and make a mint.
Oh, okay.
Because they're building these. What they're doing is they're draining swampland, so the developers are getting it for nothing.
Yeah,
they're
pennies
draining
on the dollar.
Yeah, they're draining it and then building these planned communities. The place where my in-laws live, it's not 55 and over, but that's pretty much like anyone can buy a house there. They don't have those stupid rules like some of these places do. Like, oh, your grandkids can only swim in the pool from 10:30 to 10:47. That nonsense they have with a bunch of people actually enforcing it. It's anyone can live there.
Okay.
And it's funny you were saying people who can work from home. There's a lot of remote workers who are living down there, and they're still working remotely. One of my wife's friends, he works for an insurance company in Manhattan. Their lease ran up in like 2020. They never renewed it. They put everyone remote. Go where you want. So they're living in South Carolina, outside of Charlotte, but making Manhattan money.
I was going to say.
Yeah,
and
so
Manhattan dollar goes a lot further in South Carolina.
Sure. Oh, their house is she went down there to visit. And she goes, it's twice the size. It's enormous,
right?
And it costs half as much as what ours would. So,
And I'm sure, like when people went to Wilmington instead of Florida, because it's not as hot as Satan's asshole.
Right. It's like Satan's taint.
Sure, right? Yeah, it's a little bit better. So if Wilmington isn't affordable anymore, or as affordable, there's going to be another town.
Right.
Oh yeah.
I've heard like towns in West Virginia are starting to grow. And some of these towns are incentivizing people to go there. They're paying they're almost. I think one town was paying people's down payments to get them to move there, and the stipulation was you had to stay for 3 years and already have a job.
That's fair.
And so, but they would pay for your down payment. I think up to 10% of your down payment of a house.
That's huge
Yeah.
when you think about it, right?
Sure. So basically, it would cost you nothing to move,
Right.
but you've got to be willing to move your life. But here's the thing, though: if you can move there, they give you money for the down payment. You pay the rest in cash. You now have no mortgage and all the salary. And if it's built
quality
up,
of life just went up.
well, but if they built up the town enough, like in some of these places, like they built in anticipation of this. Like as soon as COVID hit, and people were starting to do remote work, they started building. Like these small towns, they built up their little, singular street downtown.
Right.
With not that they brought in like McDonald's or anything, but they brought in like they incentivized locals to start diners. Mm-hmm. They reopened like an old movie theater. They just made it where there's enough of comforts for people that want to move there to make it so people aren't missing as much. Now the biggest thing that they're missing though are medical facilities in a lot of these places. So like older people really aren't going to go, but younger people might.
Well, see, and the other part I think about is mass transit, right? Like what's how big is Wilmington Airport?
Yeah, so you can get American flies there. Southwest does not. You're close enough to Myrtle, where Southwest has a lot of flights in and out of, but that's something to consider. Like,
right.
When my dad retired from U.S. Customs, they moved to Kildare Hills, North Carolina.
Okay.
But he was still doing consulting work, so he would have to drive to Norfolk fly from Norfolk to Dulles,
Right, get
and
a
then
bottle.
get international from there. There were no one-way flights to Heathrow from Norfolk or Wilmington. The only place you get in one-way from North Carolina is Charlotte.
Right.
And I hope you like American Airlines.
Because there ain't
they own
nothing
that
else in
place.
town.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's something. And another thing to consider if you're going to these places, like, are you a big sports fan? Do you
Right.
like going to games? So the closest NFL football team to Wilmington might be the Commanders.
Yeah.
I think it's closer than Charlotte.
Is that your market? Probably is.
Yeah. The closest NHL team is the Carolina Hurricanes out in Raleigh.
You lost
So, yeah.
Diehard Capitals fan, you lost me.
I'd only go to see them. No, a buddy of mine went to a Hurricanes game. They were playing the Capitals.
Okay.
And he sat on the glass for what it would cost to sit in the 400s in.
Oh, Cap One. Yeah.
So-
Opening day is Sunday. I mean, it's preseason, but in my heart, that's opening day.
Oh, yeah.
So we're
Yeah.
a big fan.
Yeah. So it's all these different things to consider, there's not even a minor league baseball team in Wilmington. They have a summer collegiate league team, the Wilmington Sharks. And it's fun to go. But it's not even the Bowie Bay Sox. It's
Right.
These are college and high school kids that are playing in
Yeah.
the summer league.
Well, and that's the hard part for people to leave here. Yeah, you leave the traffic behind, but like you just said, we have AA baseball 25 minutes down the road.
Yep.
Major League Baseball 35 minutes up the road.
Or 40 minutes the other way.
True,
And
or
that's-
that.
Yeah.
We got 2 NFL football teams within a 45-minute drive. And then we've got a National Hockey League team, 45 minutes.
Basketball.
I mean, you could call that.
I know I'm
you
not a
could
basketball
call-
guy, but we're just trying to be an opportunity.
No, I didn't mean it that way. I just meant like, does anyone really want to watch the Wizards?
No,
right
I
now?
do not.
No.
You could call that an NBA team.
Yeah.
They are in the NBA.
Yeah. It's more
But
like a G League.
University
Right,
of Maryland.
right.
University of Maryland's there.
Yeah, there you go. That's better. Basketball. There we go. If you want to watch basketball, you go to the University of Maryland. Shoot, I'll go to Towson before I go see the Bullets. I mean the Wizards.
Whatever they're
Worst
called.
name in fucking sports.
Yeah.
Wizards. Get the fuck out of here. Call yourself the Bullets.
Once
Be
you
proud
whip
of
up some of that magic and win.
right? No,
game.
there's no winning. That franchise is never going to win shit. I'm sorry.
No, they're completely irrelevant.
They make the dumbest moves. It can't draft for shit. I mean, I'm not even a basketball fan, and I know that's a shit franchise. It just is.
Is Gilbert Arenas still playing? I mean, that's the last time I paid attention.
No,
No one
right.
got shot recently, so I'm going to say no. He hasn't pulled out. No one's pulled out guns in the locker room, so I'm going to say he's out.
Right.
Agent Zero. This is way off, but this is what we do here.
Yeah. I listen. I am a dedicated listener.
I went to a Wizards game. We took the kids there. It was cheap as hell, and we go there. I've seen a couple concerts at Cap Ones. I've seen a ton of hockey games.
Right.
And then I used to go watch the Capitals when they played in Landover
Okay.
at the Cap Center. So we go to this. The vibe was completely different. Like it was like a bunch of dudes, like that looked like they wanted to sell you a used car of questionable origin, right? Like, bro, this is a good car, and they're not paying attention to the game. A bunch of fake-looking women,
Right.
Like attractive, but just like a bunch of Instagram models were, and this is in the 400s,
Yeah.
where we were, and then the game itself, like no one's really paying attention to it, and then I'm just watching all these dudes, like it's a bunch of like 7-foot-tall white dudes who sound like they're Eastern European war criminals missing 3-point shots.
Right.
And then I'm like, this is even my oldest son, who was a sports fanatic, was kind of like,
I'm
"Dad,
over it."
Can we go eat Chinese food now?
Yeah.
Because
That is the best part of the trip, right?
Now, Caps games, you can be
Completely
a complete
different.
hockey novice and have a great time. It's just a completely
It's a
different.
great vibe,
Yeah.
right?
So, yeah, not a Wizards NBA fan.
Speaking of what happened to the Chinese food in that area, I haven't been down there in a long time, but I used to work down there
Okay.
before it became what it is now. Back when there were actual Chinese families running Chinese restaurants.
So there's one, I don't even know which. I think it's on H Street.
Okay.
The new Big Wong, and I'm telling you, I know that sounds terrible.
Awesome
But
name.
I really think 100% that's the name.
That's great.
And you have to go down a set of basement steps to get to the place. Like
We go to
and they
one
do a
market.
really good deal.
If you got to go downstairs into a basement part, it's
100%.
The decor hasn't changed. We talked about this on the last episode. Like the decor hasn't changed since the 80s.
Right. And you don't use the restroom there because it's like a bit questionable. Thank goodness we don't do health grades in DC. You know?
But also, if you do walk back there, the old Chinese grandmother yells at you for going
Yeah.
back there.
Right. You
And
go
it-
too far.
Yeah. Where are you going? No, you don't go in there.
We go to one called Walk and Roll.
Walk and Roll. Where's that at?
It's
I know, right? It's all
it's
big
right.
square.
It's not. I mean, it's right there by the arena. You have to walk down steps to get to it.
Okay.
And they call it Walk and Roll because at night they have karaoke there.
Okay.
That's awesome.
And then, but the food is amazing. And you walk into this like dark. The ceilings are maybe there might be 7 feet tall. Like they're very low ceilings. And
Right.
The food's just awesome. So
Okay.
that's
Just know if you walk into one of those places and there isn't like an 8-year-old kid working there, it's not the place to be. If the 8-year-old kid doesn't walk you to your seat and bring you the water, then you're not in the right place.
Or if you have linen on your table, I know I'm not in the right spot. You know.
But it had the Lazy Susan in the middle, so you put all the
Oh
dishes
yeah,
on
yeah.
and spin it.
Spin it around. Yeah.
Family style. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
There's only a few of those left. I remember my uncle used to take me down that back when it was Chinatown.
Right.
And before I worked there. Like when I was a kid, it was all
Well, when we were kids,
Chinese
that was
restaurants.
all Chinese restaurants and prostitutes. Was what that was
That-
all.
yes.
K Street and
Yeah.
yeah. Seventh and K is right around where I was.
Because when my dad worked in the district and they were building the arena there, he's like, "Oh, there's going to be a bunch of hookers down there. Why would anyone want to go down there?" I said, "Well, there's probably a couple people that would want to go down there specifically for that."
Right.
It's an attraction all on its own. And plus, the subway's right there. You could literally get off the subway, get a prostitute, get right back on the subway, take her to a hotel.
Sketchiest metro stop in all of DC, right there.
There's the thing I used to love was there was always live music, and by live music I mean someone just being on the corner.
Street performers. Yeah.
And sometimes there were dueling performers.
Still
But
exist.
Oddly enough, though, they're usually pretty good.
Right.
Some of those dudes are legit.
Like there's one guy that's there. I don't know if he's still there, but he's got his little drum set, but it's like a 5-gallon bucket, like two 5-gallon buckets, and then something and he's there just jamming on this makeshift, like amazing. Like the guy's wasting his talent on the side of the street, but
Right.
it to listen to it's just amazing. But yeah, it as far as like a lot of those old Chinese restaurants and the Chinese businesses, they're gone now. A majority of them are.
Yeah, there's a lot of commercial stuff. Like
Chopped.
there's a lot of chains. Like
You lost me.
when I go to the Green Turtle,
Hooters is there. Hooters has been there, though.
when I go to a
Tom's
hockey,
Watch Bar, like all these big corporate places coming in. It's
chains,
like-
no thanks.
Yeah.
Fido is there. Fido's been there for a while. And RFD, they've been there for like 10 years. But they were like, at the time, they were almost like the only chains that were around.
There's a Coyote Ugly there.
Yeah.
Back when that was popular for
That's
about
gotta
15
go,
minutes.
man. I wish they would have kept the authenticity of the area, but they did not.
No.
And now there's like, if you go 2 blocks west, a single bedroom condo is $600,000.
Oh, yeah.
Probably more now.
Right. I don't track the DC market super tight, but yeah.
It-
Sounds
it's-
right.
It's unbelievable to me. Going back to the Fed real quick. Do you think if they do this rate cut, I think if they do more than 2 or 3, I think we're all screwed as far as inflation goes.
I mean, so I was talking to a loan officer today, because we're expecting the Fed to come out and do some sort of a cut. We all thought it was going to be a quarter, and it being 50 basis points. But the market had already self-adjusted, right? Watch the 10-year yield. I think if we get back down below 5 again, it's going to be complete chaos, right? And depending on which side of the aisle you're sitting on that, it'll either be really good or really bad for you.
Yeah. And then the other part of this inflation thing, and it's got to do with cars. Cars seem to be... The car situation right now reminds me of the housing market
Okay.
back in 08, 09. So there's a lack of used cars on the market right now because people are holding on to their cars.
Right.
Just like people were holding on to their houses because they couldn't afford to sell them because they were underwater on their car or they were underwater on their house. Mm-hmm. They paid too much for them the last 3-4 years. They're now super underwater on their car, and they can't just roll all that negative equity into the car because manufacturers, the MSRPs on these cars is stupid high.
What's the average? Like 45, 50 for a new car
Yeah.
now?
45, yeah, it's like 45 average.
A new truck's costing you 70, and that's like
It's not even.
that's not even tricked. Yeah.
Yeah, and then back, I remember like even 10 years ago, 70 grand was putting you in like a diesel.
Right.
Now
Diesel
70
dually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
now 70 grand is putting you in like
A nice F-150.
yeah. And I'm like, I mean that's insane.
Well, it's not even the top. It's not a limited.
No,
a limited is
it's not
100
a
grand.
King Ranch or
Not a
anything
King
like
Ranch
that.
or a Platinum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the new car payments. I think we talked about this many episodes. The average new car payment is like
It's over $1,000, I bet.
it's insanity.
Right.
And I'm thinking to myself, who would pay this? And then you look. So I was messing around. I tricked out. I think Alex and I were texting. I tricked out a Chevy Suburban.
Okay.
And it came to like it was almost $90,000.
I was going to say 85, yeah.
I'm not spending 90 grand on a Chevy.
Right. That you're going to drive for 4 or 5 years. And,
Yeah,
you know.
but there are people who they're just so attached to having that.
Well, they want to buy the
status
stuff.
symbol.
Well, they want to buy the stuff to impress the people that don't even like them already.
Right,
Right.
like-
or you don't care what they think. You know,
I
it's
drive
like-
a 2017 Toyota Sienna.
Right.
It's got scratches on it. The kids spilled something in the back. I don't know what it is. Like, I will drive that car until the wheels fall off of it. It's paid off.
Yeah.
You know, the other car we have, that'll be paid off soon. I'm like, I'm not buying anything. My wife says, oh, when the cars are paid off, you can buy a Suburban, right? I said, you and your new boyfriend can buy a Suburban.
Or you get her a 2004 Suburban.
Get her a GMT 800. Here you
You
go.
know, guy?
Why do you think I've got
Yeah,
one?
I know.
I mean, like the other part of the problem is these cars are so shoddily built right now. Mm-hmm. Like Chevy alone, with that stupid active fuel management shit,
Right.
they fucked over so many people over the last 20 years.
Did you see the Tundra?
Yeah, well, now the Tundra, they're basically recalling every single Tundra for that
Anything
engine.
older, 23s and 22s are basically saying all need a full rebuild.
Yep.
Hey, go buy yourself a $70,000 truck that needs a full rebuild.
And Toyota was the safe brand.
Right.
Now it's not. I mean,
And I'm a proud Toyota guy. I'll put it out there.
well, I mean, one unknown thing was the Tacomas a while back. Mm-hmm. They weren't recalled, but there was an issue, I think, with the rear suspension on them.
Okay.
And it was a widely known thing, but people love their tacos. And so they kept buying them, and they just kind of lived with it because there wasn't a fix for it.
Screw it until we die.
Right. I mean, it was,
We'll worry about this tomorrow.
It's not a problem till it's a problem.
Cross that bridge when we get there.
but then you've got, like, Ford doesn't make cars. Chevy, do they even have, I don't think they have any cars left either.
They don't make the Cruise anymore?
They might make the Malibu
I
or
think they make
the
the-
Impala, but I don't know.
No, it's not the Impala. It's the Malibu. I think if they still make anything.
If they, I don't know if they do, though.
They're-
'Cause they went to, like, the SUVs, the Trax.
Don't they offer
and
like an electric car or something like that?
the Volt.
Yeah.
But
Well,
they
anything-
changed to the Bolt, which is a small SUV.
Oh.
Then there's the Silverado. I call it the Silverado. So I think the E.
Jesus.
The Silverado.
It's like the Jeep does
Electric
the 4
needs
by
to come
E.
a long ways before we're all going to get there. Right.
Yeah.
So the people that wanted an electric car bought one.
Agree.
Right now, you can go. I don't know if you remember, like the Ford Lightning, the F-150 Lightning. They had a wait list on that thing, and they were charging like 20 grand over MSRP. Now, nobody wants them.
Well, yeah.
Right.
Well, and
They're
then-
sitting on lots.
Well,
But I have a friend that just bought one. And I said, well, yeah, I drive a lot, right? I probably put 50,000 miles on a vehicle a year. I said, how far can I go? He goes, 283 miles. It's like, Matt, that is not going to get me through my... Like, it might get me through a day, but it won't get me through every day, right? And I don't have 2 hours to sit and charge and
Yeah.
eat a sandwich and make phone calls, right?
and then that's if you're not towing anything and it's not too
Oh,
cold.
yeah. Don't try
'Cause,
to
like,
tow a boat.
Tyler Hoover did a test where he towed some sort of car. It said he had 190 miles of range, and it used 90 miles of range to go 60 miles. Mm-hmm. And he wasn't sure if he's going to make it back. And it's just that's how bad anyone who used anything with battery powered knows how they get cold.
Right.
They don't have as much, your car cranks over slow in the wintertime. Well, now that's the whole freaking thing.
Well, what was it last winter in Michigan? And they showed all those Teslas that were just failing and failing
Yeah.
from the freezing cold.
Yeah. And then the other thing with some of these manufacturers, like the F-150 Lightning, which still burns me up because the F-150 Lightning is a badass truck, not this
Right, the
battery
supercharged
powered.
one, yeah.
People who buy them want everyone to know it's an electric vehicle. So like that, they get the Tesla because everyone knows Teslas are all electric. A Polestar, a Rivian, everyone knows they're all electric. So you
Right.
get it, and now you get to virtue signal about how green you are, you think you are, but a battery-powered Silverado, unless you're a car guy and can recognize the blue E, that's just a gas guzzling truck right there, you know.
America.
So yeah, but
The problem though right now is if you go onto a Ford dealership lot, and there was a YouTube video that I watched that he went and he looked on all the new vehicles. The cheapest car that they have is a Ford Escape. You guys want to take a guess at what the bottom price is on a Ford?
34.
What do you think?
I was going to be a little optimistic and say like 32.
39,000.
Jesus,
Yeah.
For a pretty
probably
much a
two-wheel drive.
For a stripper.
for a base Escape.
Yeah.
And that is the smallest vehicle they have. I guess the Mach-E would be next, but those are more expensive. And then he went over to Chevrolet. Like, I think a Chevy Trax is maybe, I think it was like 35. I mean, I don't understand how people can even afford, that kind of a car anymore. And this is like, we're talking about a Econo box.
Right.
And you got to pay 35 grand for that? That used to be a $20,000 vehicle all day long.
Yeah.
The cheapest car out there right now, I believe they said, is a Mitsubishi Mirage, which nobody's fucking buying. Nobody would buy that thing because it's going to the wheels will fall
She was
off.
still in business. So.
They might, maybe they're not, but
Right.
But he basically went online and he was like, I can get one for, I think it was like 17,000, which is cheap,
Right.
but I can't fit in one.
Oh yeah.
Like they're that small.
Yeah, they're tiny.
So, real quick, I rented a Mercedes. Have you guys heard of Turo?
Yes. Oh yeah.
So my truck had to go into the shop last week to get some stuff done. And I went on Turo and I was like, I need something comparable size. Of course, they didn't have any trucks, right? So I was like, oh, here's a Mercedes. I'm feeling a little fancy. I got it. Let me tell you what. Biggest piece of shit I've ever driven in my... because you always hear all the rumors. I'm not bougie like that. I didn't know. It didn't even have power seats on. And maybe it's just the one I got. But
Was it newer or older?
And it was a 2022.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So, going back to the point of cars are not being built with quality anymore.
Yep.
Now, I get it. That's a rental car, but you would expect at least the Mercedes to come with some power seats.
Well, Mercedes also, with their new vehicles, are doing a subscription-based model.
How so?
So, say you want all the functionality of your navigation system,
Oh.
you need to subscribe to their whatever their thing's called.
Right. So they keep tagging you every month.
Yeah,
on top
just
of your
like
payment.
OnStar for GM or whatever.
Right,
and if you
right.
stop paying for it, your nav system doesn't have all the functionality that it does. And
Interesting.
And they're like, well, we can connect anything to it. We can connect the heated seats to it. We can connect, and they haven't. They could detune the engine if they wanted to and say, oh, you thought you had an S600, but no.
You now have an S550.
Yeah.
Right.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. So like that's the stuff that they could, and I'm like, but if you just spent $100,000 on a vehicle, all that stuff should just
Yeah,
I should
there
have to
should be
pay
no
$24
extras.
a month so the nav works. You know?
Yeah. And I guess,
That's interesting. I hadn't heard that.
well, Toyota floated that out there a long time ago, and they got such backlash. They never really instituted it.
Yeah.
And I think Mercedes is going to kind of come to the same realization. Like,
Yeah.
you can only push people so far.
Yep. Because then my nav doesn't work. Well, I prefer this anyway.
Right.
In fact, I have an in-dash nav.
Right.
And I use this. I don't put anything in that thing.
No.
So,
There's a company up in Canada, and they got a YouTube channel called, it's just called 4x4 Canada, 4x4 Canada. And they put it's a system called iNav. It's aftermarket head units or control systems.
Okay.
And they make them for every car. So if they're going to, and computer guys or whatever, I don't know if they're computer guys or what, they're always going to find, if someone's screwing somebody and creates a market for an alternative, someone's going to create that alternative. So that, these guys literally send you the kit and a video on how to do it yourself, on how to just swap it out. And it looks exactly the same, except you either now have Android Auto or Apple CarPlay.
Right.
And same screen, everything looks the same. It looks factory.
Innovation.
And it's there. These guys will always be ahead of the manufacturers that are trying to screw somebody because they can make money on it.
Well, so this is TikTok news, but I follow a lot of car review stuff. There was a Subaru tuning company that got slammed by FCC, something along those lines, because they were beating all of this smog testing and all of those things, and they came out and crushed them and said, you won't do it anymore, $2 million fine. And there was a diesel company that got hit last week. I mean, it's our government telling us what to do.
Yeah. Well, anything that involves a kiosk in the MVA is a scam. So when you go plug your car into the kiosk, pay $40, like that's a scam. And
Don't be late by a day, because that's a fine too.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
yeah,
I always thought that was weird. It's like, you used to have to go through the bay. They would plug it in. I thought they were actually doing something.
No.
And then they have the self-service kiosk. Like, wait a minute. I'm going to plug this thing in. The machine's just going to tell me I passed and let me go?
yeah.
This is a fucking scam.
Money grab.
They used to. I remember my first car. They actually put it on rollers and they run it.
And they
really?
did they put the exhaust
They
capture
put the
thing on
little
the back?
thing in the
the
back
umbrella?
of it and test it. There I am with my '87 Camaro, just puking out, whatever. It did pass. I'm like, yeah, okay. This test
Straight
is valid.
octane coming out the back.
It literally smells like gasoline.
More pollutants than coal.
But yeah, I think at some point, markets eventually. It's probably the same with everything. Eventually, like the consumers is like, nope, I'm not doing it. I'm done. You know.
Well, they say the biggest beneficiaries are mechanics right now.
Yeah.
Because I mean, shoot, we got one of our cars in the mechanic right now, just for a blend door actuator. Mm-hmm. I'd rather keep putting money into my paid off car,
Right.
with it's only got 100, and people haven't been driving a lot, so
Yeah.
that 2013 Ford Edge has only got 105,000 miles on it. I'm gonna, like you said with your minivan, I'm running that Ford Edge into the ground.
Oh yeah.
I'll get it detailed, waxed. I'll make it look brand friggin' new.
In the end, it doesn't matter.
No.
You know. And
My wife likes it good enough.
Yeah.
She don't want me to get. She said she wouldn't mind something a little bit newer, just so it would have Apple CarPlay. But she's like, this works just fine, and I like driving it. Like,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. No need to go and shell out all kinds of money.
You know what car I want to get rid of? The newer one, the Chevy.
Yeah.
Not for any other reason than I just don't need it, and I'm sure it'll break before the other two.
Well, probably.
It probably will. I mean,
Right.
and look, I have nothing against Chevy or GM, but I have a big gripe with direct injected engines. They're made to blow up.
Right.
And it's all the design of it, and they don't tell people that. They don't tell people about the proper maintenance for those engines. The proper maintenance is you have to take the manifold off, and you need to walnut blast inside.
Clear it. Yeah.
You need to clear the carbon off. The carbon buildup on the back of those valves. What ends up happening is the valve doesn't seat properly anymore because there's the carbon buildup. Because in port injection, you had the fuel injector on the back side of the port, which gas is a solvent, so it would help clean it. Well, now you're shooting the gas directly into the cylinder, so now you have none of the solvent going on the back of that valve. But you have all of the exhaust particles coming in from the PCV valve. PCV valve basically takes exhaust or gas and oil that didn't burn, recycles it through the engine so that it burns off. It basically gives it a second run through the system to kind of burn it off, and so it'll go through the exhaust. The problem is that ends up just caking on the back of the valve, and no gas is being sprayed on it as a solvent, so that it goes into the chamber and burns off. Well, now if your valve's not seating properly, all types of shit are now getting into the cylinder,
Yeah.
and it grenades an engine.
Right.
And the maintenance in your manual should say every 40 to 50,000 miles, you go to a mechanic, they take your head off, they walnut blast your thing. I priced it out one time. It's only like $350. Huh. Now keep in mind, people at 100,000 miles, they're paying like $1,000 to $1,500 to do water pumps, belts, hoses, timing change, all that stuff, right? So if someone told me every 40 or 50,000 miles I had to do a $350 maintenance, I'd be okay with that.
Right.
But they don't tell you about it. And that's the part that pisses me off.
Right.
No, right. And exactly. They want it to be a disposable appliance, like a refrigerator.
Right.
Because right now with like dishwashers, refrigerators, if you try and get that fixed, it's going to cost you with labor and parts, $350, $400.
The minute they walk in your house, it's a $200 bill.
Correct. And a dishwasher, I can buy a dishwasher for $500.
Yeah.
Well, it's like my washing machine's 10 years old,
Oh, it's at end of life.
and the bearings are starting to go bad on it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I remember when I was a kid, my parents had the same washer and dryer forever. It had the analog, you click, and it was just
old
like a timer.
Maytags.
So when I replaced ours, that's what I replaced it with. I went to a used appliance shop, and I looked around and I found a really old one with the click dial. Mm-hmm. I want that one, and I want the dryer.
Right.
I've been here 10 years. They're still good.
Yeah, and that's so when this one goes bad, which will be the second one. So we bought the house in 2009. The appliances were only like 4 years old, so they lasted another 5 years or so. Then the bearings went bad in a front load stupid washing machine. Mm-hmm. I remember when it was in spin cycle, the entire house would vibrate. Right? I'm like, oh, it's in spin cycle. This one started to get loud.
Okay.
And I'm like, well, it's only. I was like, oh wait, it's only 10 years. Oh, it's 10 years old. It's
Right.
right on schedule. But when I was a kid, like every now and then, like the drive belt would go bad, so I'd have to help my dad tip it over, and we'd go and buy a belt from Sears.
Yep.
And put it on there, and it would be good for another 5-6 years. Then it would go again, and you just replace it. The stuff lasted forever. So, but now it's all just plastic junk from
It's
God
like
knows
our
where.
phones, it's everything.
Yeah.
Everything's disposable now.
Well, when that washer ends up going, I will pay to get that thing repaired.
Yeah.
If I got to pay $500 to get it repaired, I will, because I know when I get it repaired, it'll last another 10 years.
Yeah.
Call me, I got a guy. We got a guy for everything.
But I mean, that's where the point. Like, I had a rental home, the cheapest new washer, and it was on sale, and it was an Amana. It was like $400. Mm-hmm. That was the cheapest, and that was like 8-9 years ago. That's the
Right.
cheapest one they had. I was like, and it probably crapped out in 3 years. Everything's just made to be disposable now, and even like when we had an appliance guy come for our old fridge, he's like, "Don't fix this." He goes, "The new part is going to have the same problem that the old part did because it was a manufacturing design flaw,
Right.
and it was an old like Samsung refrigerator."
I was just going to say the Samsung and their ice
My-
makers.
Yeah.
You know.
We just got rid of so we bought a whole appliance package. It was all LG. And
Okay.
the only thing that's still running is the stove. The
Okay.
microwave's been replaced, the dishwasher's been replaced, the refrigerator's been
Yeah.
replaced. I'm like,
So wait, we don't have the same fridge anymore?
yeah, no, now it's we have a Frigidaire now.
Oh, okay.
So, but it's just all junk, and it's going to
Well,
go
now
bad.
they're coming with all the technology in the front.
Who needs?
like,
Who needs?
in the camera so you can tell what's missed. Like, I'm like,
When they started connecting refrigerators to Wi-Fi, I'm like, "Yo, fuck this, I'm out."
yeah,
I'm sorry.
I can't do it. I can't do it.
Like, what's he gonna text me? Like, hey,
It'll say like you need milk or you need
Mm-hmm.
X or
I'm surprised it doesn't tell me like, hey, fatty, lay off.
yeah. Hey, third time tonight, bud.
Yeah.
Why don't we go sit it down?
6 beers?
Yeah.
Question mark.
But
Texting
funny,
wife.
You turn like the microphone off, it still fucking listens.
Oh yeah.
I'm convinced. So like we have a Fire TV Cube upstairs, and it's an Alexa's built in, has the microphone. I followed the steps to mute Alexa so that it can't listen, and miraculously, it still knows exactly what I need because I'm talking about it in front of
Right.
it.
Or I need to buy new golf clubs, and I'll have ads now on my phone all day.
Yeah.
That's right.
You know, it's just
And don't get me wrong, I'm not like completely pissed off when I get like good recommendations. I don't like the fact that it's listening to everything else too, though. Like
Right.
if it heard that I need golf clubs, it heard that I like two.
I told my kids to pick up the dog pooper.
Or, like I like a second knuckle in my ass, But- and now I'm gonna get ads for that. Too. It's like, is anything not?
You get those
private?
ads as well?
Right? Yeah,
That was just me.
is there nothing is private anymore? Now the government knows exactly what I'm doing in the comfort of my own home.
So I'm not that versed in the real estate, but I just thought of something. Is there value in remodels prior to selling, or is it better?
100%.
Okay, because like I've heard like, oh, don't waste your time, just let them do
So-
their own thing, and
It's a double-edged sword, right? I mean, you've got to, how do we say this, right? So you've got to want to deal with the project in some aspect, right? So if you come to me and say, Adam, I just want to sell my house tomorrow, I don't care, you're not the guy, right? Yeah. But if you come to me and say, hey, I inherited this house, we want to know if we put 50 in, would it help me? So here's a prime example, Shipley's Choice, which is over in Millersville, really nice. This lady inherited a house from her, I think her mother or father. We work with a contractor that puts up all the renovation cost up front. Now, it's at a premium, right? Yeah. Nothing's free in life. Everybody needs to make money. But she was going to sell this house for, say, $775. She put 50 into it, listed it for $837, sold for $890, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of times where it makes sense to go do that routine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But there is a way of doing it and doing it wrong. Because a lot of people do it and they do it to their own taste.
Oh, yeah.
You rather than doing it more neutral, and then, like, if you're going to paint the walls, don't paint it dark blue, right?
Agreeable gray is our color.
Yeah. Or a tan or a beige. Something that's easily painted over if the new person doesn't like it.
Right.
Oh,
it's like 2 coats of paint and the old paint is gone, right?
Yep.
And if you do countertops, maybe concrete countertops aren't the best move because what if a person doesn't want concrete? Now, everyone seems to like granite, right?
Yep.
Granite is universal. It looks nice.
Stainless steel appliances.
Right. But you got some people that they'll do a renovation to a specific palette, and it's going to limit the number of people that'll buy. So it's very important if people do that kind of a renovation,
right,
or even just a spruce up. And I know this is going to be controversial, but I would say maybe either through your real estate agent or maybe on your own, you get some kind of interior designer that knows the neutral choices to pick.
So, like this contractor specifically that we work with to offer this service, it's basically, hey, we sign, agree, we have a conversation, and then you're out of the process, right? Because it has to be that way, because there can't be 4 or 5 project change. You know, you didn't like this cabinet, or you didn't like.
I want a different black.
Yeah, exactly. You're selling the house.
Right. You're not going to see that anymore.
This gray is too warm for me.
Right.
Like my house is all gray. It looks like the side of the freaking USS New Jersey.
Yeah.
Like it's that gray. Like,
Battleship gray, baby.
I'm like, this stuff. But then when my wife is picking the color, she's like agonizing. They all look. Because as men, we see primary colors.
I was going to say, you put 5 shades of gray up, I'm going to be like, it's gray.
She's like, which one do you, but I don't care. But I want your input. My input is going to be, I'm the sucker that's painting this freaking house. Like, my input, that's where my input begins.
My input is I like the color that's there.
Yeah.
That I don't want to change it.
If we're up to me, all the walls will be white.
Right.
And they'd be that same color till they cut a wall down and remove my bloated corpse out of the freaking place.
Well, and I'm not painting anything, right? Like me personally, like we just had a painter in to paint our house, right? Like I'm getting too old for that stuff.
I'm stupid. I do stuff myself because I hate paying people to do things. So like watching some electrician come and charge you $300 to walk in the door to replace a fuse in the breaker box, and I'm like, okay, I'm never. So like then I had a breaker need to be replaced.
Yeah.
YouTube University. I've done plumbing. I've done all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And
it all depends on the scope of the project, right?
Well, what's going to happen? What's going to happen in our house? We needed to do the kitchen. The original owners had it. I don't know what the hell they were thinking, but a lot of these houses they were built, like my house was built in the 80s.
Okay.
So it's not open concept. It's got, because our parents' generation wanted rooms. They wanted a dining room. They wanted a formal living room. They wanted a family room. They wanted so what's going to happen is I'm going to get enough beer downloaded into the system, and it's just going to happen.
Keep
like
the
sledgehammer.
away from Mike. All right, fair enough.
Hey, we're starting the kitchen.
So the fun, I've kind of, we actually did an episode on this a long time ago. It was the DIY versus something. I forgot what the actual name of it was. And you were the DIY guy, and I was to pay someone. Since then, though, I've done a few of the projects where I've done a hybrid version of it. So, like when we hung the TV behind us, I hung the TV. I cut the holes in the wall to run the cords behind. But I had a electrician buddy come to actually move the electrical outlet up. That was the actual electricity part of it.
Right.
I saved a ton of money doing that way, because instead of having 2 or 3 hours on a job, it was an hour job, because it was within the same channel. So he just had to literally run wires up, receptacle, done. And then I did the rest. So I hung the TV, I put it in the studs, and then I ran the HDMI ports and the splitters and all that stuff. So that was the part I YouTubed on how to do that. So now I can turn on that TV and it'll play on that TV.
Nice.
And then if I put another TV over there, like I can put up to 4 TVs in this basement, all running off of the same input. And I was a little particular on that, and I didn't really feel like explaining it to someone and then tell me it couldn't be done when I knew it could be done. But I didn't want to deal with the electrical. And if I was going to put if I'm going to put a TV on that wall, I'll have an electrician come do the same thing, and then I'll hang the TV. So I'm kind of in hybrid mode. That being said, when I had my garage done, I didn't do any of that myself. None of that, and I love it.
Yeah, the last thing I did was a bathroom. So
You went whole hog on that bathroom. You did the whole thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
ripped the floor out and everything.
The floor.
I've been guilty of that before.
Well, so the downstairs bathroom started, let's paint the bathroom.
Okay.
And by let's, that means that's you.
Yeah.
Because the other part of let's is not doing anything.
Right.
So it was a big mess, and then whoever built this house, you know how usually you have the vanity and the plumbing all runs out the back? Mm-hmm. These clowns, the plumbing comes directly through the bottom of the vanity. And then, okay, we can work around that.
Okay.
But then the drain, rather than going out the back, goes out the side. It is nuts. It's almost like they built the vanity around the effed up plumbing.
Right.
So I'm like, I can't just buy a vanity to replace this. So I ended up getting a new top for it, and then
Just keeping the same cabinet.
and spray painting it white. It looks nice. You know,
Okay.
put new hardware on it, painted the walls.
New
Everything's
hardware,
different.
like,
Yeah.
if you don't have money to do a kitchen, I said, well, can we buy some new hardware?
Yeah.
You know, that'll get you through.
And so I did that. Well, then I did the kids' bathroom, and that was original from the '80s. Like it still had the vinyl rollout one-piece
yeah.
floor. So I completely gutted that. The only thing that stayed was the tub.
Yeah, 'cause those are a pain in the dick.
Yeah, and it's one of those one-piece awful tubs.
Right.
So I'm not messing with this thing. So, but we just got new shower curtains and stuff, and it's all covered. It has wainscoting around the wall and a nice new vanity, a mirror, a new light fixture. I did all of it, and the
Probably
floor.
saved a boatload, too.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Because some contractor would charge me thousands of dollars to do that.
7 to 10 to do a full bath.
And then I'm like, well, I can F this up myself. So then at the end, I tried to hang a towel rack.
Yeah.
So I'm hanging it with those wall anchors, and it
16
goes,
holes.
it punches right freaking through the wall. I'm like, so now I've got 4 holes, and it just drives me nuts every time I go in there.
Yeah.
So whatever, it's my house.
Not going to patch that one, huh?
Not yet.
No.
When she wants to repaint again, then I'll patch it.
Why don't you do? You wait till your oldest is old enough and he can patch it.
Yeah. Hey,
Then you don't have to do it anymore.
let's learn how to do something.
Right. Then you
Family project.
Yeah.
you teach him how to patch one hole. Now he can patch all the holes
Yep.
because you know he knows how to do it.
Yeah.
See, you're just creating a little mini labor force. That's what you're doing.
That's why I had three of them.
That's right.
So
I got the other sex. They don't do shit. I can't even get them to empty the dishwasher. They barely want to take care of the dog that they wanted.
well, that shouldn't surprise you at all.
No, it does not. And the funny, I remind my wife every single day. She's like, "Why won't you take him for a walk?" I said, "Because I didn't want this dog." Like, you 3 figure out who's walking this dog because it ain't me.
Right.
But but you love him. You play with him all the time. I was like, yeah. I mean, he's here.
Side benefit.
Yeah. I mean, I can't help it that he likes me.
Right. He probably likes you the best.
Right. I can give him all the treats.
Yeah.
I'm home with him all day. You know, what else am I going to do?
Yeah.
But look, if I leave the house and come back and he hasn't chewed up something, that's a doggy treat right there. Automatic doggy treat. But now, is it the hard, crispy bone? Or is it some cheese? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm giving him something because he didn't destroy something. Although the motherfucker is going after my TV remote. That was I thought I had an understanding with him. And I sat him down. I talked to him. I looked him right in the eye. And he didn't look at me back. But I knew he heard me. I was like, I don't care if you chew anything else in this house. Do not chew on my TV remote.
Right.
Because the TV remote for those stupid fire cubes is like $35.
Yeah.
At that point, you're better off just buying another stick. Because you can buy the whole stick for $40.
Right.
Want to thank Adam Chubbuck for coming. Talking some finance with us, some economy, and all the other bullshit that we end up talking about, as we always do. Want to thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for sponsoring the show. TACMD.com, TACMD.com. All Adam's contact information. I almost didn't say information. Wow. We didn't drink on this episode. No. Appreciate having you.
I appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Like, subscribe, comment, and share. Come back next week. Next week's episode is the episode from the homework episode last week, where Mike and I we share the 5 cars that we found for under $5,000.
I've got like 5,000 cars.
Dude, I like, if not that I don't have a real job, but I turned that into my real job. I was scouring the internet. I got a bone to pick with some websites, and we'll get to that next week, though.
All right.
Thanks for listening. Like, subscribe, comment, share. We'll talk to you soon.